And that little MIDI song right there, at its height, what you heard were 8 different separate guitars being recorded on 8 different tracks. And what we're here to discuss today is how you can take that many layers of guitar and record them without making sonic mush. And welcome to Music with Marky. Okay, I have the session loaded up in Reaper, which is my DAW of choice here. And the first thing I want to point out harkens back to a lesson I did before. Harkens back. What am I, in a D&D movie or something?
You shall not pass!
And that is that every channel has on it something called a channel strip. I'll just load one up here and pull it into the window. This is SSL. I'm using Wave's SSL bundle. I couldn't recommend it highly enough. If you don't have channel strips on your mix of some kind, whether it be this or some competitor to it, it's going to be really difficult to get any of the separation we're talking about in any of your mixes. And with SSL bundle, I like it because of all of these presets you see here. I don't have to mess around with all the knobs and understand a lot about compression if I don't want to, and it does a lot of the heavy lifting for me. So that said, I will actually jump into the most dense part of the song just for a moment, because I'm going to turn off all the channel strips so you can hear what I'm talking about. And that's over here at the lead. And if I disengage every one of these channel strips and play the same thing together, it's not going to sound nearly as good. You can hear stuff is really blended together. I'm sure you've had this problem with your mixes when you're starting out. I sure did. There is not a lot of separation. Too many frequencies are overlapping. So I'm going to turn them all on. Again, play that little piece, and then we'll talk about each one of the tracks and how we're doing this to make it individualized for the guitar. It's subtle, but it's less mushy. Okay, let's roll it back now that I've said that and made that point, and we'll talk about each one of the tracks individually. So the song starts off with the A part here, and this was meant to be very small sounding. So it has a filter on it on the drums, and that is another Waves filter, and lo-fi strings is what it's called. I laid that on the drums, and I laid it on this first guitar, which is just, you can see it's recorded in stereo, but it's just up the middle mono on playback. And the whole reason for doing it like that is the whole mechanism of contrast. When it comes into the B part, I want the B part to sound really big, so something small before it really accentuates the largeness. So then we go here. Okay, and what we have here are two basic, again, I record them in stereo, even though I'm splitting them to mono sides. It's just a habit I have. That's not better or worse, it's just the way I do it. And we have two rhythm guitars played side by side, which in the video I put that mirror effect on it. And you can see here I have a number S1, what all that means. So that's setting in my Axe effects. It's 505 is the patch number. I programmed it specifically for that guitar, scene 1. And then I'm using the second pickup on the guitar. I do this so if I have to come back to the recording, I know what I did. I don't have to try to figure out how to match the sound. So here we have two rhythm guitars, and I'll pull this back up again. And we're using the preset for guitar. So all of the compression and channel strip settings that you see here is just the preset for guitar. And it is drums, bass, and a guitar left and right. Very simple, not too difficult to get. Not yet running into a problem where you have a lot of layers and it's going to be difficult. Now halfway through that part, I bring in that 12 string. Now, I want that 12 string to really stand out. It has kind of a lot of body if you just play it normally without any EQ. So first thing is, again, the channel strip. Now I use the specific acoustic guitar channel strip for this because it's an acoustic and it tends to carve the sound in a way that'll make the acoustic stand out nicely. And I have an EQ on it. You can see here I've scooped out a lot of low mids, and this is FabFilter Pro Q3, so this isn't just, I've only boosted the EQ that much. What this is a multi-band compressor, so it's pushing up those signals and smashing them at the same time. So if I turn that off and we solo this, sounds pretty nice by itself, but in the mix, it's a little bit taking up too much space. You can hear you've almost lost some of the articulation, and it's taking up too much of the lows. It's going to be a real problem when leads come in. So I have that EQ there, and we'll solo that again. Yeah, a lot thinner sounding, not pleasant by itself, but what you need for a mix. And then we hit it again. Okay, so now when we jump to the next part, it gets a lot more complex. Now the lead comes in, and you can see there are two other guitars. I wanted to, this is a chorus, if you will. I wanted to create a lift in the chorus and have it be not just the lead that lifts it, but the rhythm guitars come up too. So let me mute the lead here, mute the harmony tracks, and just play it for a second. All right, so you see the acoustic has gone to a higher piece. If you look at this here, I've lowered the volume a little bit. It was too much if I left it at the same value when it was by itself. But what you have here, the new layer that you need to understand, is this other layer of electric guitars that are going, or rhythm electric guitars that are going with the other electric guitar. Okay, very subtle. They have the same strip on them as the other guitar. It's just guitar, the preset. Notice that I have them also split far left and right, so they're supposed to blend in. It's supposed to feel like one guitar that has more octaves to it almost. And now we add the lead guitar in. Now here's my one big trick with this. Well, there's two tricks here. One is that the channel strip I use, and whether you're using a competitor to this or you use this, I don't use the same guitar setting as the rhythm guitars, the preset, that is. I have used one that's meant for a lead solo violin, and I'm going to show you the difference here. If I turn this, well, let me let it play for a minute with the lead solo. Okay, if I change that to just a guitar setting like the others, it blends in too much. Even if I bring the volume up on it, it still just kind of blends in and the signals are too samey. So let me solo that and show you the difference. I just play it. Sounds good by itself, but it blends in too much. So I go over here to this preset. It is Tom Russo in this case. And if you're not going to be having something with presets, you can take a look, freeze frame and look at how the settings are on this channel strip so you can get an idea of what you could be using on your own. Besides being a little louder, it has more sizzle to it, and similar to what happened with the acoustic guitar, it's taking out some of the low mids and bringing up certain frequencies so that in the mix you really get a jump on it. The other trick here is I like delay a lot, so in this case I'm using a Valhalla delay for it. I don't record, when I record lead guitars, I don't record the delay into the track. I don't use delay from the effects unit unless I'm playing live. I always use delay in the studio because I want it time synced. This delay, as you can see, is set to eighth notes. It's not too high in the mix, and it's just the setting I'm using. But the important part of that is syncing the notes to the tempo so that if you don't do that, you're creating more mush. Okay, and now the last section of this is where the harmony guitars come in. So let's just take a listen to those by themselves. Okay, so a couple of tricks with these. Now for these guitars, the channel strip is back to guitar on the harmony guitars because I do want them to blend in a little bit. I don't want them jumping out as much as the main lead. And the other thing you can see, it says OR gain 65, right? So orange rock reverb over here on the main lead. I switched over to the Kemper for the lead. I just like that sound for this. And OR is just me abbreviating orange rock reverb. And I've turned the gain down on these. So if you listen to the lead sound by itself again. If you listen to one of these harmony guitars, you'll see there's a lot less gain. When I do harmonies on lead guitars, I do them one of two ways. It's like this, where there is less gain on it, and it's a little bit cleaner, and they're pulled back. Or I keep basically the same sound, but I wash them in reverb. If I'm using a drier lead guitar sound with no verb or very little delay, I might, in a harmony guitar, make a very reverbed out, a very thickly reverbed harmony guitar, almost as if the reverb on the lead guitar was coming back, the echo was coming back at you as a harmony. It has a nice effect to it. So the other thing I want to point out here is that notice how I have these panned. They're not far right and left. They're 50%, somewhere around 50% left and right, because we've already got a lot going way out on either side of the ear with the rhythm guitars, but I did want them to either side to create that nice effect. So there's the basics of it. A lot of it has to do with those channel strips and how they're set, a little bit with panning, a little bit, as I said, with messing with the gain and the EQ. One last time, I'll say you really want to look into some kind of channel strip plugin if you want to be able to do this well. So that's the way I do layers when I'm putting together a mix that's dense with the guitars. Certainly it's not the only way. There's a million ways to skin the cat here, but I'm hoping that you can get a takeaway from that that's useful to you. The main thing I want you to focus on is to think about that you're mixing signals. So anything that sounds good by itself is fine, but when you put a whole bunch of things that sound good by themselves, they usually don't sound good in a mix. You have too many overlapping signals. There are things that you have to carve out. It's about, not so much about boosting what you're missing, but about taking away from something else what is robbing you what you need from the main thing that you want to focus on. So as you saw, like with the acoustic guitar, I had to pull out the low mids and bring up a little bit of the highs. And that's the kind of thing you want to think about, is where you can scoop things out from one instrument to make another sound good. And if it gives you some insights in how you're doing it on your end, that's great. And always, guys, I'd love to hear what you're doing. If you get anything from this and you come up with some of your own recordings, post links in the comments below. I want to check them out. And of course, if you have any questions or comments, do the same and I'll get back to everyone as soon as I can. And until next time, guys, keep making great music.
Hey friends, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. It makes the whole world better.